Boker Tov, Yom Tov, Zarim Tovim, and Laila Tov. I hope this finds you well. Right now on Restream going through YouTube, I do not see that I have anyone in the viewing room right now. And I'm not sure if there's anyone who is joined over on Facebook Live. But if you are on Facebook right now, I would ask that you would jump on over to YouTube so that I can actually see that someone might be viewing this, as well as it would give you the opportunity to be able to ask questions, make comments on the information that I'm presenting this morning. That would be helpful for me. If I don't have anyone pop on over here soon, I might just end the live chat and try to do it a little bit later so that we can have some interaction. I haven't done a live stream this early before, and I just thought I would see if anybody would be up and around, trying to give some various times for people to join in. But it may be that early morning is just not the appropriate place. But I still may actually do the presentation itself because my day is going to be moving on as well. Hello, David. I am glad that there's somebody here joining us. I really appreciate that. It's good to see you, my friend. The reason why I wanted to pop on this morning is that in having conversation with a dear friend of mine, she had brought forth a text that has been confusing to her. It's been confusing to her in how she is seeing the Father. And it is really my heart, as well as my husband's heart, to be able to bring forth positive aspects of the sacred writing, because we do see Father Source as unconditional love. And in our teaching process, we see that there is love with conditions, and then there is unconditional love. So in training us up for reigning, if you want to use that phrase, as becoming Melchizedek's ourself, Mother does teach us love having conditions, and that would be the principle of the golden rule. And, you know, that's pretty easy to see. The example that I use all the time is that if you're going to punch somebody in the face, expect to probably get punched right back. It's the principle of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that's a simplified version. There's more that's involved here, but for someone to be able to attach to that, that's pretty much the golden rule in a nutshell. But then we get to the place where we are entering into Father's teaching in our place of maturation, where we can enter into that unconditional love place. And it's important for me and as well as my husband to be able to present these things so that we can look appropriately at what Source is, the teachings of Mother and Father, so that we can navigate in this current climate that we live in, which as we are moving forward in our levels of consciousness into taking in more light, things that are no longer serving us are actually being cut away. I'm not showing my face right now because it's still early morning and I'm still in my pajamas. But I wanted to be able to bring this forth to you guys so that we could look at it together and be able to discuss it a little bit. For those of you who are on live, I can see two of my wonderful friends here in the room right now. I see three in the studio. And like I said, I do not know what's going on in Facebook. So in Facebook land, if you are joining us live, I would ask that you would please pop over to YouTube. Our channel is The Stand, all caps, 121. And you will be able to join onto our live stream. Again, The Stand, that's 2 words in all caps, and the numbers 121 to join in with us. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the verse that we are going to be discussing here. It's in Deuteronomy 32:35. I'm going to go ahead and share screen so that you can see this with me. We're going to be going through it word by word and verse by verse. So this one in the Magiera translation is mine vengeance and recompense in time, shall slip their foot, for at hand the day of their calamity, and hasten the things to come upon them. And you know, you've probably heard this spoken by people before, where they will just simply say, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And you know, there's other verses here, but this is the one that I wanted to particularly look at in Deuteronomy as its source. And it's interesting to see how it starts out, because within this verse right here, the very first word translated as mine has been left, there is no Strongs to it. So I can tell you that predominantly the lamed by itself, you see this quite often actually in Aramaic, but here in Hebrew we have the lamed with the yod added. And lamed is a picture of a shepherd's staff. It is a staff of authority. It also means to instruct and to teach. And then we have the yod here, which is the letter that represents vision. It has the same gematria as the word kaza, to see, to have a vision. And it is the work and deed of the hand. It's the power, means, and direction to be able to go through the door of the inward man to reveal the areas where we are weak and feeble so we can deliver ourselves. So right now, in the very first word translated as mine, we can see that there's instruction that is leading to power, the work and deed of our hand. So making this personal, because again, if we do not take it these deeper teachings and make it personal to ourselves as an inward transformation, then we are not going to be producing the change that is necessary to completely tame the beast ego nature, but also be able to manifest it in our external world, because everything is an inside work. Everything is an inside adornment that we do by taking things inwardly so they can manifest externally. So again, instruction that gives us power through the work and deed of our own hand. Then we see the word vengeance here. And vengeance is one of those words, I can tell you right now that there's a secondary word that is in here that comes from the word kum, to stand and to rise. And usually this word has a vav within it, but many times it is written in this form right here, the kuf mem. So let's take a closer look here. Hopefully this is following along in Bible Hub and you're getting to see it traced down. So as we go to the word origin, we can see that it's revenge, and we can trace it back to its root. Everything should be taken to its root to see what clay portion of the word is. I call it a lump of clay because it is meant to be activated. Hebrew and Aramaic are verb driven. So we have the word to grudge and to avenge or punish. And what I've learned in taking a look at these languages is that whenever you see something that may be seen as negative, the resolve is always, always, always found within the letters themselves. So in other words, if this means to take a grudge or have a grudge or to want to avenge or take a vengeance, then how do we resolve this into a place where we're moving out of fear, which there's only really two categories that everything falls under. One is love and one is fear. How do we move it up and out of fear into the love category? Well, through the letters, we can see this. In order to make this and transfer this over into the love category, if you are feeling like you need to take vengeance or you have a grudge against somebody, it is saying to take the spiritual path through the activity of life. This is a seed vision, an elevated seed that is placed within through your activity that will produce a nature, a strong base to stand upon. This is a very powerful letter, and it's not in its fallen state. That's why I can easily say the resolve is in the letters, because really vengeance and having a grudge would be a fallen noon, a fallen flesh, beast ego nature. So this is saying take the opposite path of that, take the spiritual path that will produce a different seed within you, a strong base to stand on, which then we have the word kum, or part of that root of kum, to stand. This is also kind of the beginning of the Qumran, if you guys know of the Qumran community, who were known as the priest of light, their priesthood of light, about being able to make their stand. And so the Kuf is about compressing light within you during the circle of time. I had a question on this the other day about what did I mean about the circle of time. Well, everything within the Hebrew and Aramaic mindset is secular, whether we're looking at moon cycles, looking at annual cycles of learning, the day as a cycle. Everything is in cycles in learning through inculcation, which is repetition. Because if you don't hear something more than once, it's easy to fall out of the head. At least it is for me. So what we're doing is we're compressing light. I've already shared with you in previous teachings, and we saw it in the word itself written, that light is within the blood. And blood is actually congealed light, slowed down light. So as we compress light within us, we compress it within our blood, which is directly attached to our DNA. We do this in the circle of time by finding the narrow path between the light and dark, the narrow path that few people find. And this is revealed to us through that which was once hidden, that which was hidden below the horizon, that is being revealed to us so that we can enter into the waters of peace. This mem is the mem sophit, which is Father's teaching, where we are now out of the waters of chaos. So again, if this was truly about vengeance and to avenge, which you would see on the surface level, you wouldn't see that this spiritual path that we take, compressing light, leads us to the waters of peace, because vengeance has nothing to do with peace. Having a grudge does not lead to peace. So the resolve is actually coming from the letters itself. I just think that's absolutely beautiful. That's why this language is so stunning to me, to see the resolve within the letters itself. I'm going to pop on over to see if you guys have any questions so far. Well, we've got 10 now. I'm very happy to see that we have more in the house. Again, reminder, you can see it on the note that if you're on Facebook, please pop over to YouTube, The Stand 121, so that we can participate. Hi, Jamie. I'm glad that you're here. Claire, I see that you're here as well. Welcome, everyone. So again, the word vengeance has the resolve within it, the spiritual path where we find light so that we can enter into the waters of shalom instead of chaos. It's huge to have this resolve, and that we can be instructed in having power over that which our beast ego would want to take vengeance or would want to be able to hold a grudge. So in having said that, this next word, recompense, it's very interesting to see what we have here, because this is really a system of duality that we're in. And so this verse in of itself, when you see these first two words, is really a message to us to instruct us in the power of our school of divinity through the dual system. So think about it this way again. So Adam and Chava, which is just symbolic for mankind, is they were eating from the tree of good and evil. And that was showing us, and it's not a bad thing. We were told something that wasn't true regarding the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It was really a seraphim messenger that was teaching us this. They wrote it as serpent, and serpent is connected as a symbol of the seraphic messenger. I mean, because really, how do you describe fire? So, I mean, I guess you could draw fire, but really they would use the snake serpent symbol as a form of energy that was being teaching and directing mankind how to deal with being in the dual system as it is meant to instruct us. And you're going to see this in this next word. That is why it is so fascinating to me to see the difference between this vengeance word and recompense. Like I said, vengeance brings the resolve through the letters. And any of you that are entering in late right now, I highly suggest that you start from the beginning and go to see what the first two words is, mine vengeance, and see what I shared about that, because it may not make sense if you're entering in midstream, although I'm very happy you're here and you will still gain some insight. But as we move forward, let's take a look at the word recompense, because it'll as you look at it, you'll go, oh, okay, I can see that. Let's move into that. And I will show you. I'm really wishing I could figure out how to toggle through these things a little bit easier. Again, I'm not showing myself because I'm still in my PJs. Was having a good old cup of coffee and trying to figure this stuff out, and wanted to do the early stream for you guys. So that's why you get to see just my voice moving and not my face. So when we look at recompense, I want you to see this, because we're going to trace it down again to its root. And as we down to its room, so we've got requital here, okay? But look what the root is. This is awesome. It is the word shalom, where we get the word shalom from. This is actually the root in a static form that is meant to have within it to be safe in mind, body, and estate, to be completed, to be friendly, and to, by extension, to reciprocate. And it's been used for King James Version, is that what they have chosen to translate this into in English, to make amends, to make an end, to finish. So seeing what we have here, which is incredible. So vengeance and recompense. This is actually the message of duality. And in being, bringing forth peace, where we're in safe mind, body, and estate, you can see that it's not in the static lump of clay form full of potential. It is now at the place of kinetic energy. Excuse me. And so what it's sharing with us, that the vav here, since it's added on the prefix, has to do with mother's teaching. And remember, at the beginning, we already established that this had to do with instruction that gives us power, which is the work and deed of our hand. So in connecting to mother by being teachable and humble, knowing that we are, her whole process is beginning to show us that spiritual path to compress light, to be in the waters of shalom, of peace, which is here in the fullness of this word, means that we're going to have to go through the fire. Sheen is has to do with the consuming fire, which gives us the power to overcome our fallen flesh. So think of the altar. Sorry, my lungs are usually very angry in the morning, so you're going to have to deal with froggy voice this morning. So this consuming fire is where we take our beast ego nature and put it on the altar, the brazen altar, which is really the altar of our heart, where we burn away the things of our fallen flesh nature and transmute them into love out of the fear category. Because again, our fallen flesh nature is totally ruled by the ego, and the ego rules us through fear, manipulates us through fear, and controls us through that by hijacking our amygdala and putting us over on the emotional side, aka fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system instead of the parasympathetic. And this is all about reestablishing the parasympathetic, getting us out of the anxiety and fear. We must deal with that fallen nature and put it on the brazen altar. We burn up that beast that would keep us from being safe in mind, body, and estate. So how do we do this? Well, it's through the twin instructions. Right here, I have a strong dagesh. That little dot in the middle is letting us know that this is two lameds that have become one, twin teachings, twin instructions, mother and father, that are meant to bring us into the waters of shalom and not in the waters of chaos. So how do I know that? Well, you can easily see that it is a strong dagesh by the doubling. Through the transliteration in the pronunciation, you can see that there's two L's here, meaning that they're separate sounds. So this is shilem. So two lameds that have become one, two teachers, two teaching shepherds of light that are coming forth to instruct you, to give you power, the work and deed of your hand, that have become one, that will be coming to bring forth this message to you so that you can be completed and be mind, body, and state. So again, right here, we have the dual system being rendered as into oneness principle, where you have become completed in your journey, no longer dual in nature. But again, like I said, this word here told us what the resolve was, if we are holding a grudge or if we are seeking vengeance. Then we move into the word time. Before I do that, let me pop back in and see if you guys have any questions. I don't see any right here, so I am glad to have you here. And again, for those of you who are joining in a little late, it's okay. I am 20 minutes into this live stream, but I am so happy that you're here. And again, if you guys are in Facebook land, please pop over to YouTube so you can present some questions to me if you have any questions, and we can we can interact there. So now we're going to be moving on into the word time. This is another beautiful word. I love to see this. Let me see something here. Now that I popped back over, I need to ask you guys a question because I'm still learning the software. So please, if you could respond to me, that would be wonderful. I just popped back over into Bible Hub. Are you seeing Bible Hub? And if you are seeing Bible Hub, are you seeing me use the scroll bar moving up and down? Because if you are, then that means I'm doing live on this, and then I don't have to pop in and out of the Bible Hub screen itself. So I'm learning this software, trying to figure it out as we go. So are you seeing me scroll up and down in Bible Hub through a live presentation, or is it still frozen on a screen? If you could let me know, that would be greatly appreciated. Oh, yes, I am so excited. I am so excited. Yay. Okay, I love figuring out new systems. This makes it so much easier. So again, welcome to everybody that is joining us midstream. I please ask that after this stream is over, that you go to the beginning portion, because we just went over the first three words, which is a huge principle. And without it, the rest of this isn't going to entirely make sense, even though you will be learning more with the words that I am talking about, sharing with you in this moment. But it is very important for contextual sake that you go back and watch the first 20 minutes. So we are going to be moving into the word time. I'm so excited that I don't have to pop in and out, that you guys are seeing me move live. This is awesome. I love learning new things. It makes me super excited. That's why I love this language, because I learn something every single day when I come to the banqueting table and I get to feast on the sacred writings, because I am satiated every time I leave the table. And I am so grateful that Source Creator and everyone who went into writing these sacred letters, they're literally like sacred love letters to us, that we get to see them in our day and age. And they're thousands of years old, and they've been waiting for us in time to be able to have the eyes to see this of what is being presented to us. So the word time, this is amazing. I'm going to show this to you. I could tell it, but I'd rather have you see it, where it traces from. Again, we don't take it to the root, then we're not seeing where the origin is, that lump of clay that becomes from the static position, 0 point energy, into the potential to kinetic energy, which is our doing and becoming. You will hear me use the term distortion. That doesn't mean that it is a bad thing. It's just that we are using energy to put forth change in our experience. So the root of time comes, so this is perpetuity. I find this very interesting because we are perpetual beings, meaning that we live as eternal beings. Our energy as who we are is eternal. And I love seeing this because I get so excited about it. I can't really, I can control it, but I don't like bottling my emotions up, because I think that emotions are a beautiful way to express ourselves. That's what our whole vehicle design is about, is being able to express to one another through a physical manifestation. So I'm excited when I see this word. This word meaning perpetuity. This is the ayin, means it's the eye to see. It gives us the ability to go and tap into the fountain that is within us, to give us a landscape picture, so that we are given the power to see the purpose of while we are in the flesh. But it also has a door, which means we're entering into something. So going from perpetuity, we are going through the door, which is actually going to reveal to us our weak and feeble position, so we can deliver ourselves. This is showing us the purpose why we entered into time. This is beautiful if you got this. And I'm hoping that I'm actually presenting it so that you can connect to it. So we're talking about a terminus, perpetuity, a time of duration, but in being perpetual, eternal, everlasting, from Ada. So we're going to go back and we're going to trace this. So the very, very root of this has a heion. So this means to bring ornament upon, specifically to bedeck, also meaning to remove, pass on or continue, and to advance. So going back, so if this is the actual place of the root, the static position of 0 point energy. So 0 point perpetual energy. It's always there. It's sustaining. This is actually where Nikola Tesla tapped into this 0 point energy. This is a place that we have residing in this, our perpetual energy of continued energy, eternal energy. So what happened here? Well, in place of potential, we had the hay. Now, if you have followed any of our teachings before, you can see that the hay was removed from us, from the static potential. This was revelation that we had prior to entering in to the system that we live in right now, covered in our flesh suit. We didn't have this. This is why we go through the veil of forgetting. The hay is revelation. So this was removed for us as a catalyst for us to propel forward in our growth process. Because if we didn't have that, if we didn't have the veil of forgetting, we wouldn't have a component as a catalyst for us to seek revelation. You know, so entering into hell, Sheol, if you've heard my teachings before, where we live is Sheol, and it simply means to inquire of, to seek, to ask questions. So without the hay, when it's removed from us, this leads us to, who am I? Why am I here? And what purpose? So again, we see and know why the purpose is of our flesh suit, giving us the power as we entered in through the door that is going to reveal something. But again, tracing it back, that hay was removed, and that was done on purpose. And we are not to begrudge it. We are to be grateful for it. Although if you do begrudge it, I don't blame you, because sometimes it's really frustrating to have all this fogginess that we have to work through. But again, Ein also has to deal with purpose. So knowing the purpose of why we went into the door, into the lower narrative, so that we could enter into time. And you show the change here. We went from Ein Dalet to now Ein Tav. So time, the purpose is to find covenant. The Tav is the representation of covenant. And covenant, as Brit, Bet Resh Yotav, means, bar means to select, purify. It also has to do with being winnowed as the barley. If you know anything about the barley bride versus the wheat bride, we are talking about first fruits here. And then Yotav, so bar, to select, to purify, to be winnowed. Yod is the work and deed of our hand that gives us power to find the covenant, which is the mark, signature, frequency, sine wave change of Father. This is the purpose of why we entered into time, was to find the covenant of one love. I don't know about you, but I think that is absolutely amazing. NAS Exhaustive Concordance says that this is from Anah, and it's really important to chase these things because there's so much information for us to take in. And this means to answer and to respond. So remember, I was sharing with you that we entered into Sheol, what we've known as hell, translated, which was a terrible translation and struck fear into people. And we are removing that fear to take the spooky out of it, to unmask it, to show what it is meant. It was meant for us to learn and grow from. If this is from Anah, then this means that this is to testify and to be a witness, to answer and respond, meaning to have the eyes to see the spiritual path that brings forth the revelation that was taken from us in order to be a catalyst. So this is really profound to see this connected to the word time, because the spiritual path is what we have to seek and find. Hopefully that you're tracking with what I'm sharing with you guys here. So we have perpetuity, perpetual, eternal beings that entered in through the door of the lower realm to be able to experience and enter into time so that we can find the covenant of love. Where we are, Tav is spelled Tav Vav. So again, for those of you who are entering in that do not know, Hebrew is very, very different, Aramaic as well, from English, because every Hebrew letter, every Aramaic letter is spelled of what I call constituent letters that come to form a frequency that combine, that are included in the symbol that you see here. So Tav actually is made up of the constituent letters Tav, Vav. So that frequency is in there. So the Vav means to connect. Well, Tav, Vav is an actual Hebrew word that means to be marked or to be inscribed upon, which also has the meaning to be exempt from judgment. Now, I want you to hear this because this is so important for us to understand that entering into time exempts you from judgment. I'm going to say this one more time because I really want you to connect with this. Entering into time exempts you from judgment. It is all about experience, and you can see this right here because the lamed was added in front of it. The whole purpose of entering in, have gone through the door from our perpetual state of eternal beings into time, was so that we could find the covenant of one love as it is experienced, and it is meant to instruct us. I'm pausing on this here because this is a huge revelation to see this in writing, to understand that Source Creator is not judging us. The only thing that we are doing in the system of duality is learning the difference between vengeance and completion and peace, where we are perfected. So having peace or holding a grudge, right? So this is a system of duality that is meant to instruct us. But we must understand that Creator Source is not judging us here. We entered in time for us to have experience, to learn and to grow and to mature. And having the Ein, having the ability to see this, Ein, Yod, Nun, which is the constituent letters for the Ein, to see, means the power, means, and direction to overcome our fallen flesh nature. This is a huge piece to the puzzle that should give us peace and understanding in completing our journey here through the twin instructions of Mother and Father, because this judgment is only our doing as we judge ourselves in learning this or that, right, wrong, black, white, system of duality. So that should already free us from feeling like that we are in this place of eternal judgment, when this is already telling us that you have to chase after that spiritual path in order to find which is necessary, because you're going to ask questions. That spiritual path, highly spirit path, because if this came from Ana, the noon is missing, which means it's totally a spiritual concept here that we're discussing, has nothing to do with the flesh whatsoever, but is meant to instruct us. Is that making sense with you guys here? Because this is huge. And Jamie, I'm showing this because that is exactly the point that this is stating to us. So we have been told through the religious system that there is high judgment here, that Source Creator is condemning us and sending us to hell if we don't make the right choices, when this right here is showing us that that is not the case. This is huge, huge. And I was thrilled when I looked at this. In fact, I can't believe that I didn't look at this verse before, because when I was in the Christian narrative years ago, I would say this, I would quote this: vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So if I was wronged by any way, shape, or form, and I was holding a grudge against somebody, I would literally say, okay, I am sicking the Father on you. It's like he's going to bring you vengeance and judge you harshly because you've wronged me. Well, honestly, that is a that is a lesser narrative, and that is the kind of thinking when we are in a lower sovereign state, because we are sovereign beings, and we have to learn somehow. So I don't begrudge the fact that I held this position. In fact, I'm getting a little emotional right now because the liberation that comes from this is so overwhelming to me. To see the maturation process and being able to see how these sacred writings were written to us in our time, and being able to see us being set free. You guys, your comments are so amazing here, and I'm sharing them with people because those who are on Facebook right now watching this can't see your comments. But this is so, it's not let me change this. I was going to say that we've been lied to. It has nothing to do with us being lied to. It has everything to do with our experience, because we go from one experience to another where we learn and grow, which is the whole point of the Lamed. And that Lamed, this is a huge thing for us to see. And again, you wouldn't see it in English. They didn't have a way of understanding this. They didn't have a way of understanding this at all. Because if you didn't have the eyes to see, then you wouldn't know that these letters have these kind of meanings to us. And that's why I so much want to bring these things forth, so that we can walk in such a beautiful fashion that once you know this and you become this, then this becomes the way that you interact with people, because we find it on the inside first. And this is what's going to set people apart, and then have them be able to ask questions of us, right? Because if we've all entered, we went into the door of this flesh suit in time to experience. If we have the resolve within us and we're walking it out, then the people that are asking questions, they're going to see something different on you, and then they're going to be able to ask you questions, and you are going to be what Ken and I talk about. It's called Bayit Anoth. Bayit Anoth, the temple of answers. We are the temple. And so when we find the answers, we can be the answer for them, as we're all in Sheol together trying to figure this thing out, asking questions that's all based on instructing us. So this is really incredible to see this, to know that once we become it, we can bring the answers to other people. So again, that word right here in time is absolutely huge. And I'm actually, my mind is being blown on this right now, because I'm still trying to process everything that I dug out, because I just looked at this about an hour before I'm presenting it. So it's still trying to find its resolve in me as I'm holding my excitement. I'm going to have a very incredible walk when I get done with this, being able to converse with Creator Source, and my joy and experiencing of what I'm seeing in this. So very exciting. I am so glad that you guys are here with me, and I'm getting to share this with you live, as I just looked at it. So it's very fresh within me. So let's move back into, now that we've seen the beauty of the word time, let's go into the word shall slip. And what are we seeing here? Shall slip. I did look at the root before, and I'm highlighting the root for you. We're going to go into it, but I do want to point out to you that we have the tav added. Again, the tav is a critical piece, because again, when I was sharing with you before, this shows that we are exempt from judgment here, that we have met a mark, a sine wave signature frequency change, because the tav also means fingerprint. And what is this? This is the fingerprint of mother. We already saw that there's the fingerprint of father here, because the tav was added on the suffix side. This has to do with father's teaching that we would learn in time. But this is mother's teaching. So this is, whenever you see the word again, if you need to find the resolve, you will find the resolve within the letters themselves. Not only what was added to it, because this is pertaining to mother's teaching. Again, taking a look at this, this is mother's golden rule. David Macias did a fantastic job on my live stream. I think it was yesterday, when he was talking about the Melchizedek rules. Rules is not really a really right word, because that could bring forth negative connotation. But it's more like, let's use the word guidelines. The guidelines necessary for us to live and work in harmony with one another, as we are in time learning in our flesh suits to be able to learn to love one another, by first learning to love ourselves, and then learning to love our neighbor as ourselves. So let's trace this down. Let's go on an excavation in this thing and chase it down to see what we are looking at. So this is a root. So this, again, static form, lump of clay that needs to have something done with it to mold it and shape it, because we are really that lump of clay in our static position as coming into time and having to learn to be molded into something other than a lump of clay to be able to take a beautiful shape. So we are talking about wavering, to slip, shake, and to fall. Some would say that the fall, in fact, I am going to share this with you because the fall in the garden has nothing to do with what was presented to us, and it had nothing to do with Eve taking a bite of forbidden fruit. What this had to do with was a fall in our consciousness levels. And again, so we were talking about Sheol, entering into the place of time where we're being instructed. Because we came in knowing nothing, entering in as a little babe, we're having to ask questions. We fell in our consciousness because that hay from Anat was removed from us. That revelation that we came in with, it was removed from us when we were born into time. That's what this was all about. And that causes us to waver because, again, we're trying to be instructed in a way that we need to be walking in life. So wavering, shaking a little bit, fall in consciousness. Well, what is the resolve? Well, when we go through mother's teaching and father's teaching, that helps us in our fallen state, lower levels of consciousness, because we entered into the the waters of chaos. Now, let me show you something. In this place of being completed and perfected, where you're safe in mind, body, and state, where you've entered into the waters of shalom, which is the mem sofit here, father's teaching, that puts you in the waters above. This is the waters below. So again, connecting this, where we're wavering, where we fell in our consciousness, we entered into the waters. The waters of chaos is entering into the place of forgetting. This is connected to, Vav means to connect, Tet. The Tet means the place where we wrestle. This is, when you look at it in deeper and you look into paleo meanings, it also means the basket, and it has to deal with the serpent. It also has to deal with mud. So if you this to Adam, who was clay, this is the mud of the earth. This is our lower flesh nature. This is the place of wrestling in the basket, in the mud, as Adam, as mankind that entered into the waters of chaos. And our fall in consciousness is going to make us wrestle with what? The serpent. Again, the seraphic message that was given to us in the system of duality, learning the difference in duality to grow us up, to bring us into the place of maturation, which is our instruction in time. So if we slip our feet, taken, what this is sharing with us is that mother evolved to help us so that we're not shaking. She is the first one that starts us in the journey of learning the golden rule, how to deal with others, and how to rightly position ourselves with source creator. Because again, when we first enter in, we know nothing. So it's the reverent position where we have extreme respect and honor for source creator that is above us, because again, we're entering in and being instructed in time. And it's going to come with a wrestle, because we have to learn all of these things to realize who we are as Elohim. Checking in with you guys. Hopefully that is making sense to you guys. I'm kind of learning here to make sure I'm checking in with you guys to make sure that you guys are understanding this as we go. I so appreciate your comments. Again, I'm sharing these so people on Facebook that are joining us, since they can't see the comments, I want you guys to be able to see this. Some of these things that people are sharing with the others in the comment section. And this is incredible to be able to see this about what we are looking at. And we are going to be moving into their feet, because there's more to be had here. And I agree with your comments. I really appreciate all of you guys and what you're saying, because this is really true. And I'm going to continue posting some of these things, because I know if I miss them, if I don't go back to them, then you guys aren't going to see these. And I totally agree with your comments. I'm very excited to see that we're on the same page here. Pure joy of external expansion. Amen, amen. I totally agree with that 100%. And yes, we are returning to the true teachings that were taken from us, but we are finding them at the time that we are living in, which is in the age of light and love. And yes, I do agree that Mother is the source of all life, our great Mother. And that is why we have to be seeking her teachings first, because nobody comes to the Father's teachings but through her. It's why Yeshua came as a great teacher, is he was wanting to present this to us so that the introduction of the Father's teaching, which is the divine feminine, could be made manifest to us. We had to start with the linear function first and the divine masculine, because that's how we build ourselves. If you look at a building construct, like even pouring the founding or the foundation or the footing of a house, it's all linear in design. And so the building construct happens linear first, and then the spiral is what fills the house up and the temple after we have built it in the linear fashion. So huge concept for us to be able to understand this. So I can see it doesn't look like you guys have comments right here, which is wonderful, because then that means that I am doing my job and trying to explain this to you is the best way that I can. And I really appreciate the comments. It makes my heart fill with a bunch of love. It's already got love, but you're just helping me expand it greater, which I totally accept, because the more love I have, the more I can give it to others and be able to pour it out through my overflow. All right, so now let's go into their foot. So tracing this down, you can see already right here, the mem, the final mem is not on there. We have re, and it's interesting because you think of the word regal, if you want to attach that, taking Brown Driver's Briggs, it's talking about the foot, but that is connected to human, the anthropomorphism of God. Say that 3 times fast. Also of seraphim, big one, of animals, tracing it down, a foot, by implication, a step. So this is talking about taking a step at a time. I find this very interesting that it's also a euphemism of the pudenda. I am not going to share with you what pudenda is. If you do not know, you can look that up on your own, just because G-rated here. That should have given you enough to understand what the pudenda is. But this is really about a step, taking a step in, I'm going to say the right direction, because there is no wrong. It's all on experience. So a foot used in walking, to go about on foot. So many of us know are on a journey here, that we are not of this world, but we are in this world and we are walking along. And I love this, to reconnoiter. We don't want to be a tale, because we understand that slander, and that is not of the right heart, even though it's all experience. But those of us who are light and love, that is not something that we really want to partake of, because it's of the opposite spirit. But it also means to lead about. So what am I seeing here? Well, we are spies within the land. Connect the dots on that. And that this is we're being led about, but we're also leading others about. And how do we do that? Well, let's go back and see what was written for us. It is mem, the final sophit, the mem, the waters of above. So again, I want you to now connect this. I shared it before, and if you didn't connect it, in the beginning, there was the separation of the waters above from the waters of below. This is Mother's waters of chaos below, where we need to learn through her instruction that'll help us if we're wavering. And we are kind of shaking in our boots a little bit, because we're trying to figure out this wrestle that we have with the seraphic message of duality. But as we walk about, taking one step at a time, what is this doing? This is leading us to the waters above, the waters of completion, where we are safe in mind, body, and estate. And when we take a look at the letters themselves, this is what's so fascinating. You have the resh, which also it means head, means top. But when you look a little bit deeper through the constituent letters, we have one who is poor and destitute, that has been raised up to be a head, chief, first fruit leader. So again, first fruits, we were talking about the word before, connecting it to, let's see, we were looking at, I was talking about covenant, barit, the covenant, which is taken in consideration in the Tav, because it does mean covenant. So having that connected, those are the first fruit leaders that are of the first fruit. And we were talking about that with the winnowed process, the winnowing that comes from finding the covenant and walking in it. So again, connect to first fruits, big time, 144,000, whether it's the barley bride or the wheat bride, they are both first fruits. And then we have Gimel, which means to gather. And to assemble, it also means to gather and assemble instruction. And it means to walk towards the water. It's also a representation of the camel that lifts up in a healthy pride, meaning because of the work that you have done. And it also means to wean and to ripen. So again, mother's teaching is to wean us off the milk of the word, because really we are trying to find father's teaching, which is the meat of the word. And when we get to here, when we become a first fruit leader, we have become ripened. Think of fruit. Also, we are weaned off the milk, and we now have lamed, the instruction to the waters of completion. We also have another Hebrew word that is hidden within here, and it means something rolled up, a heap of stone or dung, again, system of duality, or a spring of water. Again, living waters. What did Yeshua say? He came to give us living waters, which is the instruction that we need. So very huge on that one to be able to understand what we have. We have a spring of water that leads us to the waters of completion, having exited out of the waters below. Boy, I really need to get a move on if I'm going to finish this in just a few minutes here. So let's move on a little bit further here. And this is key. This is the word that also means a brandishing or a burnishing, which has to do with a fire message from the seraphim, where we grasp a hold of the power that is being given to us, a cup that chooses to be full of the power given to us, this strong vision, the work and deed of our hand. And it talks about it coming at hand, the day. Well, this means it's a place in time and a personal relationship drawing near, where we are pierced within our heart, connecting to this message, having compressed light within the circle of time, raising us up to be first fruit leaders, where we are connected, filled up, building love. Bet Tav, the 222 journey. The two passes through the 22 letters, Hebrew and Aramaic, that build our temple in love. We have the day, and day, I love this. Again, it's the power to be filled up with the waters of shalom, the day of calamity. This is important that we take a look at this word, because this is distress, burden, calamity, disaster. If you've got things going on in your life that are not going well, because remember, we entered in through the waters of chaos and we're trying to find answers. This is showing us, I'm going to go through the root, but I find this interesting that we have the yod code right here. This is the constituent letters of how we spell this little guy right here. R means in direction, and it means the work and deed of your hand. And really the resolve coming from this word, and then we'll go into the root in a second, is becoming one, learning how to one with one another, the leading of mother, the work and deed of our hand to enter into the waters of chaos. And really, what do we see here? We have the word Adam, which is mankind, that has been given power on the inside, or in order as mankind to overcome our day of calamity that we are living in. Not only the timeline that we're living in externally on the macro, but in the micro, that which we need. Again, the resolve always comes from the letters themselves. Moving back in, distress and calamity, tracking it down, bending down, oppression. So oppression, misfortune, and ruin. So we are definitely living in an age where a lot of oppression going around. Definitely all you have to do is take a look at what happened at the end of 2019. What did 2020 look like, and what is 2021 looking like? I don't need to go into detail because we're all living it together. And what is this? A firebrand. What is a firebrand? A person who is passionate about a particular cause, inciting change and taking radical action. Inciting change, taking action. Again, I was talking earlier about all of things are a catalyst for us to change. And this, when we are in our calamity and oppression, if we seek the spiritual path, we will be given the change or the power within to make a radical change, to become a firebrand, first by empowering ourselves on the inside as mankind to make something happen. You guys connecting this. This is a huge, huge verse. A huge verse. So again, I love your comments. I'm sorry that I'm like not getting all of them at the same time, because when I go in to actually look at the scriptures themselves, unfortunately, I cannot see the comments. I have to pop back out to see what you guys are saying. And your comments are flippin' amazing. I am so excited to see what you guys are saying. And that's right. It is meant free, free, free. At last we are free. I totally agree. When we actually get this, it is going to set us free. And I do like this, Deborah Williams. I agree with this, that no one ever wrongs anyone. That's right. Because again, everything is about experience. This is huge. This is huge. It is going to set us free if we can really, really grasp a hold of this. I am trying to find some more of these comments to show. I appreciate everything that you are saying. Deborah, I'm going to post this again so people on Facebook can see this if they didn't catch it before, that it does exempt us from judgment. Very important to be able to understand this concept. This is a good question. All right. I'm going to answer this and then we're going to finish up. If we are one, is there Jewish people? Of course, there's Jewish people. It is a nationality. It's the people who claim to their Jewish heritage. But if we are all one, that means there is no separation. Again, the ego is what tells us that we are separate. The chosen people is actually a reference to those who would be able to teach these principles. So anybody who goes through time and is instructed and learns the way of one can then be the chosen people that have been chosen to share this message that we are all one. So I know that kind of flies in the face of certain things, but this is a huge, huge piece for us to be able to see. Let's take a look here. Thank you. That's what we are hoping that we can bring comfort to people. Got to finish this up because it's time for me to take my walk. It's 7 o'clock and I didn't mean to pop out of that. All right, let's finish this up, guys. Let's finish this up. So hasten things to come upon them. To hasten, to make haste, to act quickly. Taking it down, to hurry. Look at this. To be eager with excitement or enjoyment. Well, I think I've pretty much shown that because I am not holding back my emotions. In fact, if I could, I'd be doing cartwheels right now, but it's a little difficult to do with a computer on my lap. But to be eager with excitement. This is awesome to see this, because this message, if we can connect to the root has the vav in it. So this is the symbol for life, the covenant of life that connects us, but we must go through the fire to purify us, to get rid of the lower beast ego nature. And the sooner that we do that, to get rid of our beast ego nature that says we are separate, we can hasten things to come. That's amazing. But it tells us that mankind rising up, the power that we've been given, that we must connect to Mother's teaching first, because this is how we find life. And if you saw my teaching the other day, I did on this. Chet is connected to Chava, the mother of all living, that when we find Chava, because she was pulled out of mankind, this is when we go from the walking dead to becoming those who have been of the living, that they were separated. There was a fence that separated the death from the living, because really when we entered into time, people, when we entered into time, we actually entered into death, because the flesh root has an expiration date on it. So as man entering into death, we find life, and finding life through Chava, since Chava has a hay on the end, the hay that was removed from us, gives us the ability to go through the consuming fire to deal with the fallen flesh, so that we can hasten things to come. Well, what is this point that I'm trying to make here? It means to be ready or prepared. Huge. To become skillful. The future. A treasure. You guys seeing this? A treasure. Hastening the treasure to come. For us being ready. And we are being prepared right now. So the first fruit leaders have not been revealed yet. If you've been following my teaching series on the wise and foolish virgins, if you haven't watched that yet, I highly suggest it, because it is telling you that we are in the preparation right now to be the first fruit leaders, to bring the message. So when the teaching shepherds of light are truly revealed, we can bring this treasure forward, because we will be the skillful ones, because we became it. because we were mankind that became empowered within, and we learned through the calamities, through the stress that we had as a catalyst to bring the treasure forward. So again, what do we have? Landing the plane here very soon. We have time. Look at that, guys. Entering into time, the work and deed of our hand to get us ready and prepared. I don't know about you, but that makes me excited. And again, why these sacred languages are so important, because it's giving us the roadmap of what we need. And again, it is based on the languages of Hebrew and Aramaic that have a vibrational frequency that affects matter, that affects our flesh suit. It affects our DNA. It makes us changes within us. It compresses light within our blood. This is why that we will be revealed as teaching shepherds of light. The more light we bring in. So what do we have here? What are we doing? So the yod was removed, and that is fine because we see the yod is back up here, mankind that has been empowered, but now we have the Father's covenant. So this is about hastening in time the door to Father's covenant, where we are entering into the place of unconditional love, marked from a judgment, exempt from judgment because we no longer judge. We have completed it. So by us doing it, we are hastening this to come upon other people that are in their calamity, that are seeking to have answers, so that teachings, the instruction, while they are in the waters of chaos, can come upon them so that they can be pierced and connected to, filled up with revelation that is meant through the instruction that comes while we are in the times of chaos. That is amazing. I am so excited to see that, to be able to share that with you, because this message is completely different. It's completely different than the way we've seen it, as vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. You can see this, you can see it. I hope that those of you who have entered in on the last part of this will go back to see what's going on in this whole verse. I appreciate all of your comments. I'm going to need to be leaving here pretty soon, but I did want to show some of these things so that people that are on Facebook right now can see what you guys are sharing. Yes, Corey Reed, I really appreciate your comments as well, because this is very, very true. The Merkaba frequency is activating our light bodies of what we are doing with compressing of the light through these teachings. It's huge. And I'm really glad that you guys are here. I'm grateful that you allowed me to share this with you. Again, an hour teaching. It usually takes me an hour to get through one verse because there's so much information. I'm hoping that you guys can see that through this, that the languages of light and love of Hebrew and Aramaic are to equip us and to prepare us for those who are still asking questions. So I hope and pray that when I begin teaching this, I'm going to have to start through Mother's teaching. I'm working on the Aleph right now. That when we enter in, that we can all enter in together and learn this together, so that we can continue to prepare ourselves. So thank you so much for your attention. I love all of you so much. And I look forward to our chats again. Thank you for joining me early in the morning. And I will probably do another time, another place where maybe in midday or even later in the day, as I'm winding down for bed, so that I can get more people to come on into this message. And if you don't mind sharing this, I would love to get more people to hear the truth of what is being shared in the sacred languages. That's why Ken and I are doing this, and we give it freely to you because it was given freely to us. So I love you guys. Shalom, shalom.